Why hasn't it happened, and will it ever happen? Well, let's talk to the leader of the Brexit Party now, Nigel Farage, who joins us. Good morning to you, Nigel.
Hello there, good morning.
Did you ever think we would be in a situation where 3 years on from that Brexit vote, we hadn't left?
No, I thought there'd be some battles. I didn't think it was going to be straightforward, but I did think that the losing side ultimately would have to accept that it was a democratic result, because after all, at general elections and all through our history, the loser consents that the other side has won, and we get on with life, because that's how democracy works. The sheer extent to which very large numbers of parliamentarians, despite saying on that day 3 years ago that they would respect the result, despite standing at a general election almost exactly a year later and saying they would respect the result and deliver Brexit, despite that, in vast numbers, they've decided they want to stop Brexit. And that really has shocked me, and I think genuinely worried me too. I mean, what kind of country are we if the greatest political exercise in our history is being ignored by Parliament?
Do you think Brexit ever will be delivered?
Oh, yes. In fact, I'm absolutely more certain of it today than I was 3 years ago. I mean, the genie is out of the bottle. The public now have a taste and an appetite for this. The European Union itself is not in a great place. And there's some very interesting polling yesterday, by opinion, showing that, if no deal has been reached, which looks unlikely as it's been rejected 3 times already with the House of Commons, given the choice, do you want to leave on the 31st of October on a WTO Brexit, or do you want to delay and have a second referendum? 48% said leave on WTO, and only 40% said stay and have another vote. Now, that now is a really big lead out there of people who've made their minds up. This just needs to happen. So the question is, how do we get a parliament that does what we want? And I guess the answer to that is, at some point, there will be a general election, and that'll be the chance to sort this out.
Well, listen, I've been talking to Tory MPs backing Boris Johnson, who's the front runner, of course, for the Tory leadership contest to be our next Prime Minister in a month's time. I've yet to find a single one who can tell me what Boris Johnson's plan is for actually delivering Brexit. Yet renegotiating, well, not with the withdrawal agreement, but negotiating this free trade agreement, moving a no deal to go out to Article 24, all of that, preparing for no deal, all of that all sounds fine, of course, but we do know that we do have a Remain majority in the House of Commons, as you mentioned, and their attempts, we're told, even by many Tory MPs, to actually bring down the government rather than see a no-deal Brexit, or indeed voting openly to revoke Article 50. How likely do you think any of that is? And in that case, how does Brexit ever get delivered?
Well, Boris clearly will win. And, whatever happens, Boris will win, because a very large number of people have joined the Conservative Party in the last 6 months just to have this vote. The Eurosceptics, encouraged by the Aaron Bankses and others, have joined the Tory Party. So Boris will win. The question is, what Boris do we get? Do we get Brave Boris? And Brave Boris would perhaps go to Brussels once, conclude there was nothing to be discussed over there, would come back, would face down the House of Commons, and be prepared to fight an election on leaving, on no deal. And, of course, Philip Hammond might join the Liberal Democrats and things like that may happen. If Boris does that, he will come through this as an all-time national hero. If he decides that actually what he needs to do is to keep the Conservative Party together, then we will not get Brexit on the 31st of October, and it will have to be the Brexit Party that takes up the mantle.
In the event, though, the Brexit Party taking up the mantle, there's some talk about maybe some sort of electoral pact between the Tories and the Conservatives, or indeed maybe with some Labour local constituencies, that I could sort of say Kate Hoey, whereas actually this would be not about political party allegiances, but whether you're Brexit or whether you Remain, and just trying to elect enough MPs who are in favour of Brexit rather than any allegiance to any political party. Would you be willing to do that?
Well, I think the important thing is to go forwards, not backwards. Let's worry about where we do stand, not worry about where we don't stand. Look, we are, over the course of the last 2 weeks, we have been top of the opinion polls with several companies. We are getting ready to have over 600 candidates in the field. And if Brexit's not delivered, there might be some local deals done here and there. But, we will. If the Conservative Party drop the ball on this, then they're toast.
But the reality... No, the reality is you've got the same problem which the Liberal Democrats do, which is, again, without the machine on the ground, without with the first past the post voting system, very difficult for you to make a real breakthrough until you're at 30%, which you may well get to as people get disillusioned about Brexit, of course. But in the terms of actually delivering enough seats to form a government, you'd have to go into coalition. Who would you go into coalition with?
Oh, I'd do a deal with the devil to get a proper clean Brexit. Of course I would. Look, I understand all the problems that you're talking about, and it is very, very difficult to change anything. Our political system is hopelessly out of date. It basically enshrines two-party politics, but we've never lived through a time with such huge disenchantment with the whole system. So all I can say to you is anything is possible. The public's mind is made up. If anything, the public's mind is getting firmer. And at some point, they're going to get it.
OK, just finally, I must ask you about Boris Johnson, these revelations about his private life. Now, you've had enough scrapes in your time with your private life and your marriage and the like. Where do we draw the line between public and private life for politicians?
Well, look, I think, for people to record through the wall what is being said is absolutely disgusting. I mean, why not put some secret cameras in the bedroom and publish that? There has to be a limit to this, to this intrusion upon people's lives. However, the police were called. Whether that was a genuine reason, whether it was malicious, the police were called, and that means that Boris should have answered Ian Dale's question on Saturday. Do you know what? If he had, I think this would be over by now. But all he's done is made it worse for himself. All he had to say was, look, there was an argument. Who hasn't had one of those? The police were called by malicious neighbours. The police came and saw there wasn't an issue. End of story. That's all he had to say. By trying to completely avoid it, this could go on now for weeks and weeks.